Imagine chasing a dream so perfect it becomes a nightmare. David spent years mastering lucid dreaming, searching for control, until he found something else, a method buried in the darkest corners of the internet, promising dreams more real than life itself. But when he wakes up in a world that shouldn't exist, where reality bends and whispers call his name, he realizes he may never wake up at all. Stick around and step into a place where even your own mind can't be trusted. David had spent years chasing lucidity. He wasn't satisfied with brief moments of awareness. He wanted total control, the kind that made dreams feel as real as waking life. He'd tried everything. FILD, wild, mild, reality checks, dream journals, binaural beats. Nothing lasted. Lucidity always crumbled within seconds. Then he found the thread, a dark web forum buried deep, a place where serious dreamers shared secrets that never made it to mainstream communities. That's where he found the Sleepwave Method. A user named Vanna posted about it. Your dreams fail because you're still tied to the waking world. You must detach, fully, completely. This method doesn't just give you control. It makes the dream real. Do it right, and you'll never wake up by accident again. It sounded insane. It sounded dangerous. It was exactly what David was looking for. The instructions were deceptively simple. 1. Fast for 24 hours. 2. Sleep in complete darkness. No nightlight, no sound. 3. Use the mantra, "This is real. I am here." 4. Do not wake up until you find the door. David sat in front of his laptop, rereading the post. Vanna's words stared back at him. If you do it right, you'll never wake up by accident again. His gut twisted. Something about the phrasing was off. Not, "You'll never lose lucidity." Not, "You'll never wake up too soon." But, "You'll never wake up by accident." As if waking up wasn't guaranteed. David swallowed hard. But it was just another lucid dreaming technique, right? He shut the laptop. His room was already prepped. Pitch black, completely silent. His phone was off. No distractions. Just him in the dream. Lying in bed, David stared into the dark. His stomach churned from hunger. His body felt hollow, light. He closed his eyes. This is real. I am here. His mind wandered. Doubts crept in. What if this was all bullshit? What if the hunger made him hallucinate? His breathing slowed. Then, a sound, not in the room, inside his mind. A distant, rhythmic humming, like a machine warming up. His fingers twitched. He tried to move his arms, but they were too heavy. He was sinking, falling through layers of something thick and silent. His ears rang. His pulse slowed. His mind drifted further. Then the door appeared, standing alone in the darkness. His chest tightened. Do not wake up until you find the door. David reached for the handle, and everything went black. David opened his eyes. Not his bedroom. Not his apartment. The walls were cream color but shifting, like wet paint that hadn't dried. The air smelled like nothing. He sat up, pulse pounding. Reality check. Fingers through palm. Nothing. Breathe through a pinched nose. No air. Digital clock numbers. Solid. Not a dream, but not real either. The bed creaked as he stood. The floor beneath him felt solid, but the pressure was off, like walking on something pretending to be wood. A single window overlooked the city. The streets stretched endlessly, repeating themselves. A coffee shop on every corner. A flickering street lamp at every intersection. A copy of a copy of a copy. His gut twisted. Something about this place wasn't just wrong. It was fake. Then the door opened. David stepped into the hallway. No sound. No life. No smell. The silence pressed against his ears. Thick like a vacuum. He walked. Turned a corner. Another hallway. Turned again. The same hallway. His pulse quickened. A loop. He turned back to his door, but it was gone. Just smooth wall. No sign it had ever been there. He swallowed hard. Then movement. A woman stood by a window, staring, still, like she'd been placed there, not born, not real. David hesitated. His throat was dry. "Excuse me," he started. stepping closer. "Where am I?" She didn't react. His stomach twisted. He leaned in just enough to see her face. Blank. No life in her eyes. But then, suddenly, she blinked. A shiver ran through him. She turned her head, too slowly. The movement wasn't human. "You're not supposed to be here." His skin crawled. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer, just watched him. Then the world shifted. The walls bent inward. The hallway stretched, tilting, twisting. The air itself began to breathe. Something was waking up. "You need to run," the woman said. And then she froze. Not like a person stopping mid-motion, like a program hitting pause. David stumbled backward. His lungs burned. He didn't know where to go, but one thing was certain: he had to wake up, and he had no idea how. David's breath came in short gasps. The woman was frozen, her expression locked in an unnatural stillness. The hallway warped around him, stretching like it was alive. The walls groaned, the air pulsed, as if the dream itself was breathing. "You need to run." Her words echoed in his skull. David turned and bolted. His footsteps barely made a sound against the floor, but the hallway twisted, pulling away like taffy. He ran past identical doors, all unmarked, all closed. His mind screamed for logic. A way out, reality checks, fingers through palm. Nothing. Breathe through a pinched nose. Still no air, still trapped. He reached for a doorknob, but a voice stopped him. "Don't." He turned. The woman was right behind him. She hadn't moved. Or had she? Her eyes weren't dead now. They were sharp, aware. "You still think this is a dream, don't you?" she said. David's mouth went dry. What else would it be? She studied him. Then, softly, "Have you ever considered you never went to sleep?" His chest tightened. That's impossible. But something in her expression told him it wasn't. Panic clawed at his ribs. She walked toward him, slow and deliberate. "Vanda didn't teach you how to dream." David's pulse pounded in his ears. "Then what did he teach me?" She tilted her head. "How to cross over." The word sent ice down his spine. No, that was insane. Lucid dreaming was just a trick of the mind. Just heightened awareness in REM sleep. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Could it? The hallway shifted again. The walls melted into a vast, empty space, stretching forever in all directions, like the world was unfinished. David's stomach lurched. "If I'm not dreaming," he whispered, "where am I?" The woman's lips parted, but before she could answer, the lights went out. Total darkness. Silence. David's breath came fast and ragged. He reached out, but there was nothing. Then, a sound. A deep, inhuman hum vibrating through the void. Then another voice. But this time, it wasn't the woman. It was Vanta. "You made it." The darkness cracked. A city unfolded around him, snapping into existence piece by piece, like a loading screen. Towering skyscrapers. Streets without end. The same repeating details. Coffee shops. Flickering street lamps. The city from before. But this time it was fully formed. David turned slowly. And there, standing at the center of it all, was Vanta, smiling, waiting. "Welcome home." David's stomach dropped. "Home?" Vanta stepped forward, his presence unnervingly real. "You still don't get it, do you?" David shook his head. "I don't belong here." Vanta's smile widened. "You never did." The ground beneath David shattered. His mind screamed, and the dream swallowed him whole. David's body plummeted into the abyss. Darkness swallowed him whole, weightless and endless. His mind screamed, but his voice was gone, his very sense of self unraveling. Then impact. He hit the ground hard. Solid. Real. Pain exploded through his ribs. Pain. His mind latched onto it. He could feel pain. That meant he was real. He gasped, sucking in air that tasted wrong. Stale. Artificial. He forced himself up, blinking fast. The city was gone. Instead, he was in a massive white room. Empty. Sterile. Too bright. A single mirror stood in front of him. And Vanta stood on the other side, watching, smiling. Figured out yet? David staggered back. His reflection didn't move. His chest heaved. I want out. Vanta tilted his head. Out of what? David's pulse pounded. This isn't real, he whispered. None of this is real. Vanna laughed. Real. He gestured around them. This is as real as it gets, David. You made it here. You did everything right. This was a goal. David's stomach twisted. No, he wouldn't accept that. There had to be a way back. A way to wake up. David's hands trembled as he approached the mirror. He looked different. Too sharp. Too perfect. Like a version of himself rendered in higher resolution. Not human. His pulse raced. He turned to Vanna. Tell me how to leave. Vanta's smile didn't waver. You already know how. David's breath caught. He looked back at the mirror. A memory surfaced. Years ago, in his earliest lucid dreams, he had always escaped the moment things got too unstable. By waking up. And he always woke up the same way. By breaking the illusion. The answer slammed into him like a train. If this is a dream, his fingers tightened into a fist. Then I have to shatter it. He lunged at the mirror and punched through. David's eyes flew open. His bed, his room. The digital clock blinked at 3:14 a.m. His lungs ached. His body was drenched in sweat. He bolted upright, gasping. Reality check. Fingers through palm. Solid. Breathe through pinched nose. Air stopped. Digital clock. Numbers stable. Real. A sob of relief tore from his throat. It was over. It was just a dream. Right? David swung his legs over the bed and buried his face in his hands. His heart was still hammering. His body still felt off, like something was misaligned. Then his phone buzzed. A message. David's breath caught. A known number. Are you sure? David's spine went rigid. His head snapped toward the mirror across the room. His reflection stared back. But something was wrong. His reflection's breathing was just a fraction of a second too slow. David's chest tightened. He reached a trembling hand toward his face. So did his reflection. A perfect match. Almost. David's breath hitched. He wasn't sure if he had actually woken up, or if the dream was just getting better at pretending.